This you? Right.
Was poppin'. Welcome, Nikki and Moose. I'm Nikki. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
And welcome to the live show. Also known as Creator Ave. For those who know, you know. First and foremost, please, if you are early on this or you're watching this replay, like this so the algorithm could like us, right? If you are on YouTube and you want to support us, hit that super chat or super thanks. If you're on Facebook, hit those stars to show support and love. All tips come to us. But episode 137 dropped today. Audio experience only. If you listen to the audio experience, type 1. All right. If you have plans to listen to it, type 2. If you're waiting for the video version, you're like, Nikki, we like video. We're watching you. Okay, Moose, stop asking me. We're going to wait for the video. Type it 3. Okay? So, Moose, how you feeling?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Things are great. Weather is heating up. Allergies still bad. For those of you who listen to the podcast, I had a little run-in with some allergies, but yeah, we're making the best of it, man. Things are cool out here.
Okay. How's the weather?
Sun's setting super late, so that's why you see still daylight out now.
Are you liking those vibes? Are you not a fan of what was?
No, I'm with it. I like it.
Okay.
I've been really in I want to hang out outside and like chill around a pool or a beach mode lately. So. Just every day I'm just like, man, I wish we could go outside. But then I go outside for 4 minutes and my allergies start getting crazy. I'm like, all right, back inside we go.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, back inside we go. So
that's fair. That's very fair. I'm good. Few more days till the doggy. So I went. First off, this dog is expensive and I don't appreciate it. I'm out here doing pet insurance and going and doing quotes. This is ridiculous. Last time I just went to one spot. They gave me one insurance thing. We kept it moving. Now I have to. It's a lot. I don't know how I feel about this. This is he has a little doggy mat. It's a whole vibe. We already have a storyline of how this content is going to be. It's a lot going on.
It's gonna be a business though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's gonna be a little side business move. So I think should be all right. No, I'm excited for it though. I'm excited for you actually.
Oh, I'm extremely excited. Shout out to Janita. No, it's not going to be called Hefe.
What was the I guess we didn't talk about that. No, I was going to say the suggested name, but we didn't talk about that officially. So I guess.
Oh, no. You got to catch the after show tomorrow. Catch the after show on Apple Podcasts only, if you want to know the name and all that great stuff. So that's just it. But Moose, what are we talking about?
Man, I want to dive into a topic that came to me really over the last couple of days, and I said, okay, let's see how we can really break this down on the podcast, on the live. So I'm excited for this one. Before we get into it, though, as always, just give us a pulse check. Let us know how you're feeling. I know Nick's asked about if you caught the podcast or not, but typically Nick's would do this actually. But I don't know why I'm being a little extra friendly the last couple of weeks. So let me know how you're feeling in the chat, man. If you're feeling good, put a 1. If you're like, man, listen, it's Tuesday, bro. It's still early. You got a long way to go. I'm feeling real so right now. Just drop a 2 in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling. We do accept 1.5s, little like, so working on it. But we do hope you can end up at a 1. And hopefully this contributes to that. Also, just please share this with a couple more people, those who are building a brand or needing to get their voice out there, because again, we do believe this is going to be important and helpful to everyone. So I want to talk about, or I want to introduce this idea, and I want you all to think about this. Is delayed gratification really all that it's pumped up to be when it comes to building a brand, expanding your voice or growing your voice online and trying to build a business. The reason why I say that is because we've heard stories about being patient and how this generation is so microwave-like, where they want things right away. They want to be able to throw something in the microwave, hear that ping sound in a couple seconds or a minute or two, and then get a home-cooked meal in just a couple seconds or a couple minutes. And so when you think about the transfer of that, it's like, okay, no, you have to be in it for the long haul. You have to be patient. You have to take your time. And a lot of those traits and characteristics are very beneficial when we talk about building a brand or growing a business. There's, of course, the example of the KFC's founder who I think they said he heard the word no over 1,000 times and didn't launch the brand until late into his 60s or something like that. And so in his case, delayed gratification, simply just being patient and continuing to do what you have to do, it worked out greatly in his favor. But I also think about the other side of it, that people never get to experience their glory. Or there is just a different set of personalities that typically go out and just attack it and get what's theirs in a much quicker time. They're not that they're being, unfair, but they're definitely in a rush to get it happen. Of course, I think about our folks over at EYL who have been putting in the work. Of course, can't take that away from them, but they've experienced a very relatively quick growth in a matter of a couple years and have built a phenomenal platform. So I really want to dive into this and ask this question: is there such a thing as being too patient and simply not experiencing the level of growth or success that we would like to have because we're just saying, no, I'm going to take my time with this, right? So we've seen stories, again, where we've seen the long haul game play out for people, but we've seen some stories where the quick rise to the top has also happened. And so I want your take on this, Nix. Is there such a thing as being too patient or banking on delayed gratification, but it not working in your favor because you just not taking what's rightfully yours?
So I'm gonna go with maybe a different take on it. Not really, but I do believe that it's a matter of belief when it comes to your brand. If it is like, okay, you're waiting way too long, this is just not gonna work, I'm gonna quit kind of vibes, right? If you truly believe that something is like, this is what you're supposed to do, why is there a time limit of when it happens, right? We get really caught up in looking at other people's stuff, especially now that it's so accessible, of seeing the documentation of how one has grown, or what we see as if, okay, this just happened. And what happens is that we kind of push aside the actual plan that we're supposed to have with our brand, that we grow impatient. And it for me, if I believe in something and it's taking a minute, 9 out of 10 times it's transforming into multiple things as well. So maybe my original plan, my original vision was one thing, but it matured as time happened, as I saw certain different results, whether it was no results or whether it was a slow growth, that it still started to mature into something different, right? So the foundation is still there of, I want to do this, but I'm seeing that in time, with patience, with focus and belief, that it will transform to what it's supposed to be. So I think in the beginning, we're given a seed. This is your brand, right? You don't know much because you've never done this before, or you've never done this type of market, this type of niche. And as you continue to go, things like whether it is new products, new services, a new audience, a different type of messaging, all of these things come about, but it always going full circle. It always transforms if you believe in it. The second that you have some type of doubt because of the comparison game, you're going to derail and you're probably going to stop. So
is that a timeline thing, or is that also a timeline thing? Because I know you mentioned if you're doing what you enjoy, why put a timeline to it? So do you think so? It's not so much the fact that we're telling ourselves to be patient or we're being too patient, but it's the fact that we're putting a timeline there to begin with. Mm-hmm. Really?
Yeah, how do I put this? There's nothing wrong with setting milestones, but who are we to set timelines if we've never done this before?
Dang, that's good.
Especially the way we're supposed to do, and in a way that it's supposed to stand out. If we want to go, okay, here's the blueprint to doing this, that, and the third, absolutely, right? Like, they did it this way. They've documented it so much, and I'm not trying to surpass them. I'm not trying to truly stand out. I'm just trying to get the same type of results. Then, yeah, you could kind of go based off their blueprint, somewhat shape or form, but still blueprints are based off that individual, that particular brand, and results could vary. But if we are here to create a brand that stands out, a brand that is within its own lane, talking to a specific audience, we cannot determine the timelines. We could only respect the milestones.
What about the importance of progress? Because, there's always this philosophy that when what the quote is, happiness exists as long as you're progressing. So as long as you're seeing progress happen, then you should, for the most part, still experience some level of joy or happiness that, okay, I may not be where I want to be, but I'm experiencing progress. What would you say when progress begins to slow down, or it's like, it ain't moving like it was last season or last quarter? Is it a matter of just, okay, hold on and keep pushing, or is it a matter of, I don't know. I guess I'm really swaying on that, like shake things up and get
Say
funky
your side. Say your
kind
side.
of thing.
Say your
Because
side.
here's my thing. Yeah, I'm looking at different brands and companies who step out onto the scene and they make a declaration and they look to remove all obstacles out of their way to get to where they want. They're not necessarily interested in the standard time something is supposed to take so that they can reach whatever level or even the standard processing time, right? I'll give you a quick example. As you all know, we're taking a big trip back to Egypt, and we have to do the passport for my daughter, right? It's like her first time flying. You need a passport for her. And so we go through the whole process, and they say it's going to take about 7 to 9 weeks to get the passport back. They say, okay, well, that's not going to work because we're leaving in 6 weeks. And so we need the passport back before the 7 to 9 weeks. Right. Now, I'm just looking at the way the world operates. When we originally went on to make the appointment to first go to the post office. And by the way, I know I'm talking about, a personal experience here, but I really want those of you listening and watching to think about what side or what course of action would you normally take when someone says no and when someone says wait. I think that's an important part of our development that we have to think about. How do you normally behave when someone says no? And how do you normally respond when someone says wait? Are you just type to say, oh man, okay, thanks. Well, let me just go ahead and turn back around and try something else or get back to my own little world, or I tried, but it didn't work out, right? So we first attempted to set an appointment with the post office. They said May 10th. I'm doing the timeline of everything, and I'm like, it's like May 2nd. If I wait till May 10th, that's a whole week.
Right.
That can be the difference between getting the passport in time and making the trip, or not getting the passport in time and, God forbid, not making the trip. I go on and start doing some of my due diligence. Look what I happen to find. An appointment that's for May 5th. So it's like, oh, here I go saving a whole week in being able to expedite this process just because I didn't take no for an answer and I looked for another way. So I guess my side, Nix, is there's a version of that in brand development and business growth as well that exists if we can just be a little bit more impatient. Now, and I mean that in the best way possible. Not impatient as you're just, frustrated and you give up and you quit, but it's the impatience of, no, there's got to be a better way. There must be a better way. Let me try to expedite this. But to just be overly patient and say, I'm good.
I agree. I think in my sense, when I said, certain things transform, that keeps you active. That doesn't necessarily keep you in a standstill of, okay, I'm just going to sit here and wait for my time of growth and prosperity. I'm not saying that. If there is a down period or a stale period, you're going to get bored and you're going to try new things, right? And in that time frame of, okay, let me figure this out, while still staying course of the original vision. This is why it's so important to understand your brand vision, and the core of it. As long as you're staying within there, you could try whatever you want. One of those things are going to hit and start moving again, right? It's not, I'm definitely not saying stay still. What I'm saying is have patience for the final result, but while trying and experimenting as much as you want to, right? It's your brand. At certain points, it hasn't even reached status to where it's really truly burnt in people's minds. So if that is the case, then you can try this, try that. Let me get this tone in. Let me try this product. Let me try this service. That's not going to hit. Okay, cool. We could try it in this way. There may be certain things that at least it's moving the needle. Okay, cool. That's better than nothing or going down. Great. Work on that until it hits a certain point. Can you add to it? Right? Can you put some new add-ons? Can you try something else? But I'm definitely not saying, please just post something, create something, just watch it flourish. And in due time, it shall too grow as the other brands. No, I'm not that. I don't even have patience.
Meditation
I don't even have patience.
I'm actually an impatient person. Yeah.
I'm a very impatient person.
But to even kind of pressure my own idea, I will say one of the dangers of being overly impatient with that approach of pushing, oftentimes you can push something till it breaks. All right, things break when you push too much. So that, be mindful of that. And also, I think you probably make yourself most susceptible to being a bandwagon fan or arriving late to the party or really inconsistent in believing in one thing when you're constantly jumping from one thing to another. So just to even add pressure to my own idea of, hey, it's important in our approach or in our thought process of wanting to grow brand or grow business to still look for alternative ways. I think that's very necessary, and not be overly patient. But at the same time, know that in being too impatient, that you can push something till it breaks, and then find yourself in a situation where you just have a reputation for someone who doesn't stand for everything, or for someone who only supports what's trending and what's hot, and you're a trend hopper. And so that may not be who you are in almost your most sincere personality, or who you are. That's not anything that you stand for or represent. But as a result of that overdrive, you can find yourself in those situations. Let's switch gears and talk about this too, because I think there's a side of being patient that is very beneficial. And I think of it as allowing something its time to fully bake, right? And it's this idea of, okay, it takes 20 minutes to bake a cake, an hour to bake a cake, or whatever it is. You do want to let it fully come to life and not pull that thing out early, because it does ruin the experience for everyone. Can you talk about, outside of maybe values and the overall dedication to a mission, how else from a content standpoint should someone say, okay, I know content therapy is a thing and it's gonna pop, even if it's not getting, say, the momentum or the push that it's getting right now. By the way, folks, content therapy is really dope. You guys should check it out. It's actually getting a lot of momentum. I'm just using a hypothetical scenario here. Don't take it for an extreme thing. Just wanted to put that out there as a disclaimer. But no, Nick, I'm saying in those moments when alignment-wise, everything makes sense. Mm-hmm. But the real world is not translating to what you're feeling internally. Mm-hmm. How can someone stay patient on that in those times?
So, first and foremost, we changing the name of content therapy because that's a trademark. So, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
We're voting in deeper than the brand, but then I realized one of the options I gave, which I believe was Content Lab, is also trademark. But I hate trademark. Trademark is horrible. Good if you have one. Horrible if you're in the process of starting a brand and all this great stuff, and very expensive. But anyways, need to say. So, what I'll say is there is always an educational gap, right? We are used to certain things. That's it. As humans, we're used to certain things. And now we are trying to introduce something new to the world. And we're like, okay, get it. Hello. Understand this. And they're like, I need you to show and prove. I need to see consistency. I need to see other people talking about it. I need to see the numbers grow. And then I'll start believing it a little bit. And then you also have to talk to me about how can this benefit me? What is it in for me? And there's, I can go into several things. I haven't talked about this man for a little bit, so this is fitting. So Kanye, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I know. The 808 Heartbreaks album. In the beginning, no one was feeling it. No one. Later down the line, people were like, oh, this is not that bad, right? Later down the line. And then we've seen that happen with products. We've seen that with services. We've seen it with brands over and over again, where it came out, people weren't feeling it, and now it's starting to make some waves. So what happened? 1, patience. 2, understanding that there is an educational gap. What Apple does really good is inform the people and fulfill the educational gap. When they were coming out with the watch, right? It's in the book Oversubscribe. If you haven't read Oversubscribe, it's really good. So they broke down how Android heard that there was going to be a watch, that Apple was going to drop it. Boom. They try to beat them, drop it, everything. Because people didn't know what to do with the watch, if they even needed it, it kind of flaked. What Apple did was take a whole year to be like, to educate the people, show the people who has it, did different campaigns, built the hype up to the point where it's like, oh my God, we all need an Apple Watch, and found a reason, whether it is from a health situation to track our steps in our workout. If you follow Moose, you're instantly going to see the calories he's burned and all that whole nine in his random workouts when he can. You know, there's people who it's helped them from when they fell down, from senior citizens, helped them when they fell down, and creates alerts, right? Swimming, journaling, that whole nine. They educated you to why you're going to need an Apple Watch. Now, mind you, I don't work for Apple. I'm not even saying get the Apple Watch, right? Even though both of us has one. I'm saying how they came out with it and beat Android with it, or Samsung, was they educated, they waited, and they understood if they come out, for one, I could look at all the gaps that they're doing. I could, and this is what's Apple's biggest thing. If you haven't noticed, it's like, oh, all the Android people, well, we had this feature first. Apple is extremely good at waiting and figuring out what you didn't do. And now I'm going to do it. So I say all that. I got really excited. I don't know. But I say all that because if they're not catching on, you haven't educated them enough. And you haven't educated even the one person that is watching for them to be the word of mouth for you. They still don't understand it. And I'm very big on the audience that you have right now, whether from a following standpoint, whether from a conversion standpoint with sales, whether it is subscriptions, whatever it is. That's the audience that you are ready for, because there may be some education standpoint, behind the scenes situation, system standpoint that you still haven't gotten right to fully scale. So, sorry, I geeked out.
That was good. I love that. I mean, anytime you mention Apple, I'm going to shut up and listen because that's my favorite company on the planet. I love them. I think they're great. And I am definitely all in their ecosystem. Let's talk about, the same concept, but when it comes to money. Mm-hmm. Because I think in theory, and not just in theory, and it's actually in actuality, it's easier to keep the delayed gratification, or think of delayed gratification, or be impatient in general, in a lot of different areas. When the money runs short, when the money starts to dry up, there's a different beast that usually comes out in people that causes them to say, okay, now, even with that, I know there's a balance that's still necessary, because when you think about it, no one likes to feel as though they're being sold to, or that they're being persuaded to do something that's beneficial for the other person and they don't get nothing out of it, right? Like, when's the last time you've given your money openly to someone else who there's no interest or return for you there? Right? That's typically not the case. We're more likely to engage in, of course, talking about Apple, we engage with their products and service regularly because at the end of the day, it gives us an emotional high. It gives us some level of satisfaction. It helps us meet our essential and daily use. So we're a lot more likely to spend thousands of dollars with them over a lifetime because of that reason. But what about money, Nix? Because I feel money is the one area where a lot of strategies go out the door for people, right? They can be patient and diligent and super just calm and taking it one day at a time. But it's almost that analogy of Mike Tyson. Once you get punched in the face with some bills, with some rent, you're like, oh, okay, everything out is not happening. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about how to stay patient when money is now on the line, or responsibilities are now on the line, because I don't believe that a brand that was so carefully crafted is no longer important just because responsibilities have shifted. Maybe it has, but what's your take on it? And the only reason why I'm asking you this question specifically is because you're probably in the top 2 people I know who absolutely don't care about money. My mom is definitely in that position with you. My mom don't even have a bank account. That's how much she don't care about money. She's like,
That's a mom.
what do I need money for? Just take my money and like do stuff with it. I don't want it. So she really doesn't care about money. But you're also that same kind of person. You're not moved by money. You don't move for money, and you don't panic when there's a shortage of money. So expand on that for those who typically just shed all of their, most finest principles when the money pressure comes on.
Yeah, you don't have a backup system. That's how I look at it. The reason, and I'll say this, the reason why I don't necessarily care for money, because I always set myself up to have a backup. So if I have a new idea, what is going to be able to fund it for a while? Now that could be credit, whether it's personal business, that could be a 9-to-5, that could be one of your investments, whatever it is, right? I don't move all into something unless from a money standpoint, unless there is a backup, right? And in the beginning, there may be, if you don't even have that backup, there may be a hustle of you may have to do multiple things while doing that one thing, that brand, right? And that should be for a short period of time, and then allow the backup to kick in. But, and this is me speaking. I don't believe in let's jump all the way in with no plan, because that causes stress. That will cause you to think, yo, this is not working, I'm out. Like, forget it. Oh, I got to do this, then, or I will do some strange things for some change. Okay? I will reduce my rate to $3 when I know it is like, but I needed something because I need to pay the bills. And so when you do that, you're instantly on survival mode. I had this conversation on one of my lives where I fully respect for those people who are in their 9-to-5s, that stay in their 9-to-5s until they get that warm and fuzzy that they can do the transfer, right? And I'm not even saying the jump, it's the transfer, right? Where some people who went into the entrepreneurship world, I respect those who have to go back into the 9-to-5 to get their backup right, to then jump right back into it, right? Or those who just realize this ain't for me. It doesn't make me less of a person because social media and the world is deeming that entrepreneurship is amazing, which is a lie. Okay? I don't know why they glorify it. It's a lie. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it is for those people who is for. So if you are stressing about money when it comes to your brand and things like that, did you set yourself up for success and have a backup? And I'm okay. Like I said, that's why I started with, I'm okay if it's credit, if you know how to manage it. Don't go into those credit people and get like 7 different cards and you don't even know how to manage your money. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? If you don't know how to pay it off, then chill out, right? I don't know what to tell you. Chill out. But that's why for me, I don't really stress about it because I have responsibilities.
That's right.
I have love and passion and all this great stuff. And it's not a matter of I don't feel confident enough that it won't work. But I would move so much easier if I didn't have to worry about money. So that's what I
Yeah.
do.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, and I think more people need to hear that message, because typically what we hear, and you're right, it doesn't work for everyone. It's really not even best practice for everyone, which is go all in. Bet on yourself. And again, used very generic. Yes, you have to bet on yourself, but within reason. And what I love about the way you've always approached it is that it still uses some form of logic into this idea of, yes, go all in on your dreams, but make it make sense at the same time. Don't jeopardize your family because you want to bet on something you haven't seen. Right? And I say that strategically because the idea of a dream is something that you've seen in your imagination, not at least in person yet. Right. And so to have think about how much discipline, humility that a person's got to have to. I thought that was hilarious, by the way. Zay, you're one of a kind, bro. Honestly. I saw
I was like, let me just leave this. Let me just leave this up there.
Oh my God! And openly, and I love what our brother said right there too. It's like, where was it? It said, I oddly believe Isaiah. I love that. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's like everyone knows. Like, actually, yeah, Isaiah.
Yeah.
So funny. I love it. But no, think about how much humility it takes to go from entrepreneurship back into a 9 to 5. But I don't look at it as a loss or anything like that. I actually think that's true dedication.
Right.
Because it's so much easier to just absolutely close those doors and say, I'm out. But to say, okay, I'm going to bundle these losses up and I'm going to go and get myself together and come back and give it another crack. Like that's true dedication.
Yep.
So talk about really playing the long game or practicing this idea of delayed gratification. There's no better example of that. So yeah, I like that you speak about that to make the transfer. You know, I shared a story about the hospitality business that I was a part of, but I kind of worked my way up through the ranks to start the company or put myself in a position of ownership, but I didn't start there. Right. There's a story that I'm very public about in saying, after getting fired from Wall Street, I started as a waiter. I started at the bottom of the totem pole and worked my way up. And when I got there, I started to make the jump. And it wasn't even a jump. It was like hopscotch. It wasn't a jump or a transfer. It was hopscotch. It was like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, just to keep pushing and trying to build elsewhere. And quite honestly, if it wasn't for COVID, there's no telling where I would be, right? I don't know if I would have ever left because it was sustaining to a major degree, right? Mm-hmm. But I do think of that as necessary and important when people are thinking about the idea of going from one thing to another. That is really one of the biggest areas or the best places in which delayed gratification works. I've never seen someone whose opportunity was passed up on or it completely collapsed from a brand or a business standpoint, at least not one that we know about publicly, where they completely maybe lost their brand because they stuck with their 9 to 5. I don't know if I've ever heard that kind of story. I don't know if you have either, Nix. It's like, nah, usually people who make the jump and the longer they wait, the better it is because it's not a premature one.
Right.
And that's the best adjustment.
No, I really just want people to know that it's no shame as long as you're working both, right? As long as you're working both. Maybe you gave up on the entrepreneurship life or your brand or whatever, then that's a different story. But if you have to go back just to create the foundation to keep your mind sane, because when there is a shortage or no money at all, it instantly messes with you. Instantly. Like, what are we talking about? And no one wants that. So it's important to always have a backup. Even if for those people who are in relationships, even if it's your spouse, I definitely wouldn't say partner. Don't do
Back
that.
with spouse?
Right?
Oh, I
Huh?
was like, whoa. Oh,
Yeah.
no,
Even if it's your spouse. Your spouse is going to be like, or those who are extremely ready for marriage. Don't get caught up in the we've been going out for a little bit. Don't do that. Then you're gonna hurt your feelings. You're gonna hurt your feelings. But there are individuals that will be like, yo, like for instance, yo, get your credit right. Yo, get your debt down. Yo, if you want to go do this, I'll hold the household down. I make a good amount. You can go do that. Don't worry about it. Right? That's why, for another reason, why that's a whole separate conversation. Why you should pick very wisely, but that could be a backup plan as well. So
yeah, that's important, man. It's one of those areas that you got to be careful. Can we talk about the balance of the two before we transition into any questions? Folks, if you got any questions, please drop them in the comment section. We'll make sure to circle back at the end and answer any questions. Safe space as always. Shout out to everyone who's a part of our community. I've never seen anyone in our community actually bash someone for asking a question like, man, that was a dumb question. I've never seen that. So shout out to you guys for being so incredible. We definitely appreciate you lighting up the chat and always showing support to us week in and week out. But can we talk about the balance of the two? What's the perfect balance between delayed gratification, but also moving? Like, okay, yep, I'm playing the long game, but I'm running the short game on at the same time as well, because I don't want to miss out on those opportunities, or I don't want to be overly patient that I don't find an earlier opportunity to get this passport thing done. Selfish example, but yeah, what's the balance of the two?
Balance I don't do well with. I'm not even gonna lie with. The balance is not. I think there's seasons. I don't know if there's balance, but I do believe that there's seasons. The only balance that I believe in is personal balance, but work balance, branding balance, and I don't know if there's balance truly to that. Now, what I'll say from a personal situation where when you have like my personal brand and Nikki and Moose, right? So I'll use those two examples. Now, Nikki and Moose is a extremely long-term situation. Like it's a long game. Why? Because coming into it, I already understood the percentage-wise of growth when it comes to podcasting and how only a small percentage has a fast growth, right? And so the short-term situation to bring some kind of spike or whatever is my personal brand, right? I knew that there's certain things that I had to continuously do on a regular basis to bring light to the podcast, whether it was always talking about it at the end of the live, whether it was on Tuesdays, starting with the trailer from my profile to then collaborate with Nikki and Moose, whether it was, it's a slight plug somewhere else, right? I knew from like interviews when I do podcasts, I knew from a short-term standpoint, I had to keep the Nikki brand super alive for this to gradually grow. You look at our Instagram is like 13K. You look at our YouTube is about 14.9, I think. Hold on, I can tell you right now. I know it's in the 14K, right? So, but that's based off a lot of content. We have over like 1,000 videos out on YouTube, right? Between long form and short form. We have constant cross promotion. But if I was to lay off on my personal brand, right? Like if I'm starting to just experiment way too much. And this happened the past couple of weeks where I'm just trying different things. I know, okay, we're getting a little too crazy. Let me drop an AI tool. Let me drop an Instagram tool. Boom, we back. Now I can cater to the audience with, hey, this is also the stuff that I have. Hey, have you heard our podcast? Everybody who's heard our podcast, drop a 1. Oh, I haven't heard it yet. Go to link in my bio. It's the first thing on the link in my bio. Go. So I look at it from my personal situation where I don't want to put all the focus on Nikki and Moose, right? Because I know that's going to take a very long time. So to shorten it, I'm going to concentrate on the Nikki brand and cross promote several million times, get on these different platforms, and shout out to EYL and all these other ones, and talk about Nikki and Moose before anything to help grow that, because that creates my balance for me. Because then I can see it move every single time I do that.
That's a great example. Maybe the balance is having a short-term play and a long-term play. Maybe that's the balance. Maybe the balance is having both. Of course, I'm sure somebody's going to argue, but what about like not dividing your energy and stuff and like dedicating your all to one thing? I mean, hey, if that works for you, then you probably wouldn't have been listening to this anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the truth. But I hope that we gave you two sides of the story to be able to consider, okay, how does this work? And I'm sure some people, as a matter of fact, I know of a few particular people who only focus on what's moving the needle right now. They don't care about the short-term play. They don't care about the long-term play. They don't care about the next term play. What is moving the needle right now? That's the only thing that gets the energy. But you know what? It works for them, you know, and at the end of the day, whatever makes people happy is going to make them happy. But definitely have something that you can think about. What is your approach for this? You know, what is your approach for this? I know my approach is, you've always heard me say it, diversification. My approach, it's not so much a short term and a long term, but diversification is my method to keep balance around delaying my gratification and staying patient. Another one is living below my means. I think between those two things, they've kept me centered and anchored from doing stupid things, even when every ounce of my emotions, notice I said my emotions, not my logic, but every ounce of my emotions told me to do it. I'm just like, no, but not necessary. Can you make it happen in spite of? Can you do more with less? You know, that's been my method. And at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, most of what we do that is beyond what we call living within our means, it's not really for us anyway. It's typically to impress people who don't even like us like that, or who aren't really bothered or invested in our success. And so I've always reminded myself, like, why would I go beyond what I'm capable of to try and make someone who doesn't really care about my success become a fan of me? There's no sense in doing that. And so living within my means, I like that. Staying in my lane, and definitely diversification. So there are some things that I don't care that the internet world ever finds out. I'm invested in, but I'm involved in, but I dedicate time to, because I think COVID was a great reminder of that. When I look at my hospitality business and some of the many different things that we're doing now, hospitality business for the most part was a very hands-on, active operation. It was completely offline. Most of the work was done behind the scenes, and we worked with brands, huge brands that most people would have never even known that we were a part of. But when COVID came, because there was something being built online, diversification, they were being done at the same time. but there was something that was done online, there was no hiccup. There was no, oh shoot, how are we going to maintain? Like, this one's going away. You can't have events. Like, no, it was, okay, let's just focus on what is right now. And that was just a simple product of diversify. And so I'm back in that same mode now. I've been at it for a couple of years, diversifying, looking at what makes sense. There's always things that are happening. There's always opportunities for us. So just, if nothing else, walk away from this conversation saying, all right, what's my method? What's my stance on delayed gratification? Am I too patient, where patience is actually starting to stifle my growth because I'm always comfortable waiting? I'm always okay hearing no as an answer? Or am I being too aggressive and I push and I break things? Weave off a little bit. Or I'm trend hopping and I'm not really being consistent in one thing that people can always know me for. Mm-hmm. You know, when Nikki goes back into IG tips and AI things, that's what she's always done. Right? Before AI, it was tools. And so think of AI as the new tools. It's the same thing. And she's always done that. But if you're constantly jumping from one trend to the next thing, if you went from AI to tools to IG to crypto to stocks to real estate, it's like, come on, man. We don't even know you for one thing, right? So that's the problem with that. So, but again, there's pros and cons to delayed gratification. And so I rode I don't like delayed gratification game heavy, just to obviously give you both sides of the story, but ultimately pros and cons to both. I think that in the middle is usually where it works best, but you got to find your stance on it.
Sheesh. So on that note, if you want to leave us a tip, we actually have a tip jar.
Hey.
We actually do. So for my YouTube and Facebook people, just go to bit.ly/Nikki and Moose tips. You know, with YouTube and Facebook and all the great, they take a percentage. This gives us 100% to the creator. And for those people who are trying to have their own, this was done on ConvertKit. Y'all know when we do something, we tell you the blueprint. This was done on ConvertKit. So if this added any kind of value, either from the podcast or just from this live, definitely hit that link and leave a tip. Moose.
I love that.
Appreciate the convo.
Hey, appreciate you. Thank you as always.
And shout out to everybody. Oh, wait, we got a question. Hold on. How soon should we start to consider the diversification? That's a really big word for me. If we are just starting out.
Yeah. So you have to have something at least in motion. I think it's difficult to diversify when two things are both in the building phase. Because you don't have something really established enough to gamble or dedicate time into building something else. So for me, and I've said this on the last podcast, I'm completely okay buying operational models or businesses. I don't need all the glory that comes from being, oh, wow, you started this by yourself from the ground up. Nobody helped you. What a story. You're so heroic. It's like, nah, I don't need that glory. At the end of the day, next to your point, I don't speak on it much, but yeah, when your responsibilities come knocking, you got to find a way to figure it out. And so for me, I've never been, oh no, I got to do it so people can be raving my name. Like, no, I'm totally fine making certain adjustments and taking something that I know is going to be successful so that we can get to the stabilization phase quicker. I don't like to innovate when there is no stabilization, and I don't like to diversify when two things are in the building phase. So to answer your question in short, get something established first, then look to diversify. And it doesn't have to be a complete, throw all your energy into the next bucket because you reach. It's like, no, you can divide your energy. I was 100% in hospitality, and then I was about 85-15, pulled back. And quite honestly, I had to unlock new levels of my leadership, in my communication skills, in my management skills, to be able to dedicate more time to what I was building online without allowing the operational business to completely collapse. So I had to learn how to hire better. I had to learn how to put better processes together. I had to learn how to delegate better. I had to hire even new levels of talent, kind of thing, that more people who can step into the manager role, because you can't successfully diversify or manage two businesses while you could only be at one of them at a time. Like, it's not going to work.
That's a fact. And then somebody asked a question. How do you feel about business plugs during your lives? Business side guy, do you want to answer this? I don't know what this means. Maybe you know.
Honestly, it's like, shouting out your, I guess, to the point that you made about shouting out the podcast strategically, or just regularly throughout different spots of the things that you're a part of. I think Nikki does a much better job of that than I do. Quite honestly, I even completely forget about that's an opportunity to talk about the other things that you're a part of anytime that you're live, or anytime that you got FaceTime on the platform, whatever the case. Not intentionally, but I just think it's not a part of my strategic repertoire per se. So I think Nix does a great job of that. I don't see anything wrong with it if it's not a hard sell, and especially if it's welcomed, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, and Nick, I definitely want your take on it. If at the end of the podcast, let's say you're doing an interview, a guest, someone brings you on as a guest. So this is not your platform. You don't own the audience. You don't do anything. There is no pre-established conversation around, hey, I'm going to, you could pitch your product. You could put your service out there on my platform. I want my people to engage with it. Maybe we could do a profit split of some sort. There's no conversation like that happens. Mm-hmm. You don't want to say, sneak around and just, oh, by the way, check me out on a, like, I don't know, me personally, I wouldn't do that, but I would wait for the invitation. Every time we do a podcast, or we have a guest on, Nikki's always telling someone at the end, hey, tell the people where can they find you. We're going to make sure we link all of your stuff in our bio, or, in the show notes, but where can they find you? That's an invitation to say, hey, come on, put yourself out there. Pre-show, we also ask, hey, is there anything that you want us to really put out there? So yeah, at least that's how I took the question on.
So that you took it a different way. That's why